Welcome back to National Report. Live look here in Philadelphia, where tomorrow night, former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris will square off in the first presidential debate.
And the two candidates approaching their debate preps very differently. Trump is already throwing jabs online. Harris has been holed up in Pittsburgh with her staff practicing in mock situations to prepare for that. We're pleased to have Kansas Congressman Estes joining us now, also a senior member of the House Ways and Means Committee. Congressman, always good to see you. Thanks so much for coming in and here in studio. A lot to talk to you about. I just want to get your overall thoughts on what you believe you'll see tomorrow night there on the debate stage between Harris and Trump.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. It's great always to be here. You know, I think if you just look at the comparison of the 4 years when President Trump was in office versus the 4 years that Vice President Harris has been in office with President Biden, and compare the policies. I mean, the economy was growing under President Trump, and it's not going now. We're seeing jobs canceled. I mean, over 800,000 jobs that were reported as not being valid over the last in an error correction. And you look at the border, and you see, you were talking earlier about crime, and the border, Vice President Harris was supposed to fix that, and she didn't. And then you look at the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which we passed first year President Trump was in office, and it was intended to get the economy going, which we were seeing at that point in time that foreign companies were being, or foreign countries companies were being buying out American companies and paying for it with the high U.S. tax rates. And so we saw that turned into wage growth for Americans. We saw economic growth that actually helped grow the economy and help with the tax revenue. We've actually had more tax revenue than was projected after that.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, keep it simple. The groceries were cheaper and gas was cheaper, right? And there weren't, foreign wars being fought overseas. Wanted to move on to this. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi weighing in on the debate. Everyone's sort of it's a guessing game at this point. But here's what she had to say about the Trump-Harris face-off.
Do you think he's going to show up?
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah. Do you know something I don't know?
I know cowardice when I see it. Yeah.
So obviously, making a joke there, but it's VP Harris who hasn't shown up for interviews.
Yeah.
What does that tell you about the communication or transparency that a Harris administration might have, even with the press?
Yeah, I think they're really trying to mask, as you said. Vice President Harris has not been for interviews, may not show up, may not do a good job of debate. Last debate between President Trump and President Biden, obviously President Trump showed up, did an outstanding job, and President Biden failed in delivering and communicating what he thought was good in his administration. So I think Vice President Harris is going to have a hard time explaining and the value of what they did and the good things in their policies. And so I think there's if they're going to try to camouflage that, something like Speaker Pelosi saying that we don't know if Trump will show up was just a distraction from what Vice President Harris might do.
We had a campaign spokesperson on this show confirming that he will be there. As we have you here, and I know Congress is back in session, avoiding a government shutdown. I know it's a continued storyline that we follow, but an important one nonetheless. Can you just give us an update on where you see this going, avoiding that by September 30th?
Yeah, I mean, when we look at October 1st is the start of the fiscal year for 2025, unfortunately, Congress and the White House have had the bad track record for the last 30 years of a bad habit of not passing appropriations bills. And so we're at a point now where we'll need to pass a continuing resolution. We've passed half of the bills out of the House. Senate hasn't passed any yet. So in order to come together with a solution, we need to move forward. Speaker Johnson's bringing forth a continuing resolution, or a CR, to actually push it into after the election, after the end of the year and a new administration comes in office, and we can focus on what we do from there. CRs aren't the best thing. We shouldn't be doing that from that process, but one of the good things about that is we're also talking about including the SAVE Act as part of the CR. And basically what the SAVE Act does is it helps secretaries of state across the country to make sure that non-citizens are not on the voter registration rolls. Right now, Secretary of States have that responsibility, but they don't always have access to some of the federal data that's out there. And so we want to make sure that we have the best information that they can actually make sure their roles are purged, and that legal citizens have the right to vote, and we will make sure they do get to, but people that aren't citizens shouldn't.
Yeah, Americans voting in American elections.
That's
what
right.
a crazy concept.
It makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, it does, of course. So we'll wait and see what happens with that. Of course, to get members of Congress on record would be, I think, very helpful for voters to see how their representatives do cast their votes. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on today.
Well, great. I always
Congressman
enjoy
Estes.
coming out here.
Yeah, thank you so much. We do too.